Laziness is often misunderstood. People like to dress it up as a bad habit, something that just happens to them over time. They say things like, "I've always been lazy," or "that's just how I am." But that's not the truth. Laziness isn't something you're born with or stuck with. It's not a habit that sneaks into your life quietly and takes over without your consent. Laziness is a decision, a conscious moment by moment choice, a choice to put things off, a choice to wait until tomorrow, a choice to surrender to comfort. And the most dangerous part is we make these choices quietly, not with loud declarations, but with silent permissions, with phrases like, "I'll start later," or "I don't feel like it right now." Every time you say those words, you are making a decision to push away your progress. You see, every day you're given a set of moments, a morning, an afternoon, an evening. In each of those spaces, you get the opportunity to decide how you'll spend your time, and whether you rise or rest, act or delay, push or pause. It all boils down to decisions. Nobody falls into laziness by accident. It is a series of allowed moments, one after the other. And that means you have power. Because if you can decide to be lazy, you can also decide not to be. You can decide to stand up, to move forward, to act even when you don't feel like it. But that only happens when you stop seeing laziness as something external, something beyond your control. Laziness isn't the weather. It doesn't drift into your life and take over. It waits for you to open the door. It waits for your permission. And once it enters, it doesn't just sit quietly in the corner. It grows, it expands, it takes over your goals, your energy, your sense of urgency, but it all begins with a decision. The decision to say, "Not today." The decision to say, "It's okay to relax a little." The decision to let one skipped workout turn into a skipped week. One missed reading session turn into a month of forgetfulness. One delayed conversation turn into a missed opportunity. One ignored idea turn into a faded dream. That's the path of laziness, not a single moment, but a chain of small choices that create a lifestyle. And once it becomes a lifestyle, it gets harder to spot. You get used to it. You normalize it. You tell yourself that you're waiting for the right time, the right mood, the right energy. You create stories to justify your decisions, and those stories become comfortable. But comfort is not a goal. It's a trap. The people who rise in life, the people who grow, who achieve, who build, they've made a different decision. They've decided that motion is more important than mood. They've decided that effort is more important than excuses. They've decided to lead their life, not follow their feelings. And that's the real difference. It's not about being naturally driven. It's not about having some gift of energy or some secret motivation. It's simply about deciding every single day that laziness will not be your story, that even if you feel like stopping, you'll keep going. Even if your mind says rest, your spirit says rise, it all comes back to the power of choice. In the morning, you choose to get up early or sleep in. You choose to read or scroll. You choose to plan or procrastinate. You choose to take action or give another excuse. And each of those small choices builds your character. It shapes your mindset. It forms your identity. You don't become lazy overnight, and you don't kill laziness in a single moment either. But the battle is won or lost in your daily decisions, not the big dramatic ones, the small ones, the ones no one sees, the ones you think don't matter. But they do, because those are the decisions that decide your life's direction. If you want to be free of laziness, you must first stop lying to yourself about where it comes from. You must accept full responsibility. You must look at the mirror and say, this isn't a habit. This is a pattern of decisions I've been making. And only then can you begin to break it. Only then can you decide to move differently, think differently, live differently. Responsibility is the foundation of change. When you take ownership of your laziness, you gain the power to end it. And it doesn't require a life overhaul. It just requires one better decision at a time. A decision to act instead of stall, to begin instead of plan endlessly, to push through instead of back away. You can make that decision today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because the enemy is not out there. It's not time. It's not distractions. It's not your background or your schedule. The enemy is the decision to let laziness win. And the only way to kill it is to stop feeding it with your choices. There is no mystery when it comes to overcoming laziness. No secret formula, no magic word, no motivational trick that will fix the problem forever. The answer has always been right there in front of you. Discipline. That's it. The pure, simple, difficult, uncomfortable, non-negotiable act of doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it, because feelings are unreliable and motivation is temporary, but discipline is loyal. Discipline doesn't ask how your mood is today. It doesn't check the weather. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It moves forward regardless. It shows up no matter what. It's the only force that can pull you out of laziness and keep you out for good. Of laziness thrives in the absence of structure. When your day has no purpose, your mind drifts. When your time has no plan, distractions win. And when your actions are led by how you feel, you will always choose comfort over growth. That's why discipline is so powerful. It puts order where there was chaos. It builds routine where there was randomness. It replaces the question, do I feel like it, with the statement, it's time to do it. That shift alone is life-changing, because once you stop waiting for energy, inspiration, or excitement, you begin to develop the kind of strength that laziness cannot survive. Discipline is not about punishment. It's about alignment. It's about aligning your actions with your values. When you say you want to grow, but your habits don't match that desire, you create internal conflict. You feel frustrated, disappointed, and lost. But when you live with discipline, you build trust with yourself. You know you'll show up. You know you'll follow through. You know that even when it's hard, you'll take the next step. That kind of self-trust is rare. Most people don't have it because they've broken so many promises to themselves. They've said, I'll start tomorrow, too many times. They've said, just one more hour of rest, too many times. And each time they said it, laziness grew stronger and discipline grew weaker. But here's the truth. Discipline is a choice just like laziness is a choice. And every day gives you another chance to make that choice. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel confident. You don't need to feel motivated. You just need to commit. Commit to doing the small things again and again until they become a part of who you are. Wake up when the alarm rings, not 5 minutes later. Show up to your plan even if you feel off. Finish what you start even if it's imperfect. These are not big heroic acts. They are simple daily disciplines, and they are stronger than any excuse laziness can offer. You won't always see the results right away. That's another reason people slip back into laziness. They want instant feedback. They want proof that the effort is working. But discipline asks you to believe before you see, to trust the process long before it pays off. And this is where most people give up. They confuse slow results with no results. They forget that building a new life takes time. That killing laziness is not a one-day job, but a constant battle. A battle you win not with intensity, but with consistency. Discipline is not doing one great thing once. It's doing one right thing every single day, even when nobody's watching, even when no reward is guaranteed. Discipline creates momentum. Momentum creates belief, and belief makes it easier to keep going. But it all begins with one disciplined act, just one. That one workout, that one page of reading, that 1 hour of focused work, that one early morning. You don't have to do it all at once. You just have to do the next right thing. Over time, those disciplined choices add up. They build character. They create a rhythm. And eventually, they become your identity. You stop thinking about whether or not to show up. You just do. You stop negotiating with your mind. You stop looking for ways out. You become the kind of person who follows through. And when that happens, laziness has no place left to hide. People look at discipline as something restrictive, something that limits freedom. But the truth is the opposite. Discipline is what gives you freedom. Freedom from regret, freedom from self-doubt, freedom from wasted time and missed chances. It gives you the freedom to walk through life with clarity, knowing that your days are being used well. That's a kind of peace that laziness can never offer, because laziness always leaves you with guilt, always leaves you with the sense that you could have done more. Discipline removes that weight. It replaces it with pride, with quiet confidence, with strength that comes from within. You may not feel strong today. You may feel overwhelmed by how many times you've given in to laziness. But none of that matters if you choose discipline now, not next month, not when you feel better now. Because discipline doesn't care about your past. It only responds to your present actions. And the beautiful thing is the moment you choose discipline, everything starts to shift. You walk taller. You think clearer. You feel more in control because you are. You've taken the wheel back from laziness. You've decided to lead your day instead of being dragged by it. That's the power of discipline. It doesn't just change your schedule. It changes you from the inside out. Time is the most honest force in your life. It doesn't lie. It doesn't pause. It doesn't care whether you're ready, whether you're tired, or whether you feel like working today. It just moves. Second by second, hour by hour, it flows forward with absolute discipline. And the hard truth is, while you're sitting in your comfort zone, while you're scrolling through distractions, while you're debating whether or not to begin, time is walking right past you. It's not waiting. It's not tapping you on the shoulder asking if you'd like to catch up. It's moving with or without your permission. And while you wait, someone else is working. Someone else is learning. Someone else is showing up early, staying up late, and doing the things that lazy minds keep postponing. While you're thinking about starting, they've already started. While you're planning the perfect moment, they've already failed, adjusted, and kept going. The difference between them and you isn't potential. It isn't intelligence. It's not background or talent. It's that they understood something simple and powerful. Time will not wait. Not for you, not for me, not for anyone. It's either your greatest ally or your silent enemy, and that depends entirely on how you treat it. We live in a world where time is constantly traded. People trade their time for distractions, for gossip, for comfort, for entertainment, and yet they wonder why progress feels so slow. They wonder why nothing seems to change. The answer is in how they spend their hours. Because the truth is, your future is written in your calendar. Not your dreams, not your wishes, but your daily schedule. How you use each hour determines what you become. You don't suddenly arrive at success. You grow into it, slowly, quietly, deliberately. And the fuel that powers that growth is time, but laziness has a sneaky way of stealing your time. Not all at once, but in small chunks. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, an hour of hesitation, a day of distraction, a week of waiting. And before you realize it, months have passed. Opportunities have dried up. Your energy is lower. Your confidence is weaker. And time, well, time has done what it always does. It has moved on. And it has rewarded the one who used it well. That's why the cost of laziness is so high. It's not just lost progress. It's lost time. And lost time is something you never get back. You can earn more money. You can rebuild your body. You can reconnect with people. But you can never rewind the clock. Once those moments are gone, they are gone forever. That's why wasting time is worse than failing. Failure still teaches you. Failure still gives you something in return, but wasting time gives you nothing. Just regret, and that's the heavy part about laziness. It's not that it feels wrong in the moment. In the moment, it feels good. It feels like rest. It feels like relief. But laziness is a liar. It whispers comfort now, but delivers pain later. The pain of watching others succeed while you stayed still. The pain of realizing what could have been if you had just started sooner. The pain of seeing your own potential locked behind a wall of excuses and delays. Time exposes everything. You can't hide from it. You can't argue with it. It keeps the score better than anyone else. It remembers every missed chance, every unfinished task, every excuse you gave yourself. But here's what's beautiful. Time is also fair. It gives everyone the same 24 hours. Whether you're rich or poor, old or young, time treats you equally. The only difference is how you use it. And that's the part you control. You don't need more time. You need better use of the time you already have. You don't need a new year, a new month, or a new week to begin. You need to look at the clock and say, I will no longer waste this gift. Because that's what time is, a gift. And the tragedy is that most people don't recognize its value until it's too late. They wait for the perfect conditions. They wait to feel ready. But time doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It doesn't check if your emotions are in place. It just moves. And every day you delay, every moment you hesitate, it quietly marks your inaction. You must respect time if you want to be free from laziness. Because once you understand the weight of a wasted hour, you'll treat every hour like gold. You'll start to value structure. You'll start to show up with urgency. You'll start to see that every day is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's not poetic. That's real. You'll never get today again. Not in this form. Not with these opportunities. Not with this energy, this potential, this window of possibility. Once the day is gone, it becomes memory. And memory is not something you can build on. You build on what you do now. So the question is not, do I have time? The question is, what am I doing with the time I've been given? Are you spending it or are you investing it? Are you letting it slip or are you using it to shape something better? Because if you won't use your time with purpose, time will use you. It will pass by quietly while you stand still. And one day you'll wake up wondering how you ended up so far from where you meant to be. Not because you didn't have enough time, but because you didn't respect the time you had. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock at the door or raise its voice. It whispers. It smiles. It makes you feel good, at ease, and satisfied with doing just enough. Comfort doesn't come in to ruin your life in one moment. It enters quietly, disguising itself as self-care, as rest, as reward. And before you know it, it has settled deep inside your habits, wrapped itself around your decisions, and slowly begun to kill your ambition. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in small, subtle doses. That's why comfort is so dangerous. It feels harmless. But make no mistake, comfort is the silent killer of ambition. The moment you choose what feels easy over what moves you forward, you begin a trade. You trade progress for pleasure. You trade purpose for peace. You trade effort for ease. And that trade rarely feels wrong in the beginning. In fact, it often feels like the right thing to do. You convince yourself that you deserve it, that you've worked hard enough, that it's okay to slow down. But comfort is clever. It knows how to rationalize its presence. It tells you stories that make you feel safe, make you feel justified, even make you feel smart. But none of those stories build the life your dreaming of ambition is demanding. It requires discomfort. It requires early mornings, late nights, awkward conversations, hard choices, and relentless discipline. It asks for effort on days when you feel exhausted. It asks for focus when your mind wants to wander. And it asks for patience when results are slow. Ambition is a fire that only grows when you feed it with struggle. But comfort is a wet blanket. Every time you choose comfort over effort, that fire dims a little more. Until one day, it's barely flickering, and you wonder what happened to your drive, your vision, your hunger. It didn't vanish. It got suffocated. The problem isn't rest. Rest is necessary. The problem is when rest becomes routine. When you start choosing it not because your body needs recovery, but because your mind is avoiding responsibility. That's when comfort becomes a threat. When you start designing your days around what feels good instead of what moves you forward. When your standard becomes convenience instead of excellence. You see, growth lives on the other side of discomfort. You can't stretch your limits while staying inside them. You can't discover your strength by only doing what's easy. Comfort doesn't teach you. It doesn't test you. It doesn't transform you. It only keeps you exactly where you are, and the danger is that comfort doesn't feel like failure. It doesn't sting like rejection. It doesn't hurt like criticism. It feels soft. It feels warm. It feels like safety. But safety has a cost. It keeps you from risk, and without risk, there is no reward. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones who avoided pain. They are the ones who embraced it, who got up when they were tired, who worked when they didn't feel like it, who trained when no one was watching, because they knew something most people forget. Comfort is temporary, but results are forever. Comfort also breeds hesitation. The more you indulge in ease, the harder it becomes to act. Procrastination grows, doubt grows, fear grows. Every time you choose comfort, you reinforce the habit of staying still, and staying still is the enemy of progress. Life is always moving. The world is always moving. And if you're not moving with it, you're falling behind, not immediately, but slowly, quietly, without warning. You lose your edge. You lose your discipline. You lose your hunger. And eventually you settle. not because you chose a lesser life, but because you kept choosing comfort one day at a time until that lesser life became your reality. Comfort also distorts your vision. It makes you forget how capable you are. It makes you doubt whether hard work is worth it. It makes you question your goals. You start thinking smaller, aiming lower, dreaming less, not because your potential has changed, but because your environment has numbed your ambition. When you surround yourself with ease, your standards shrink. You stop challenging yourself. You stop aiming for excellence. You start saying things like, this is good enough, or maybe that goal was too big, but it wasn't too big. You just got too comfortable. If you want to kill laziness, you have to stop worshiping comfort. You have to recognize it for what it really is, a thief of time, energy, and potential. You don't need to eliminate all ease from your life. But you do need to stop making decisions based on what feels good and start making decisions based on what's right for your growth. Start saying no to the easy path. Start choosing the harder conversation. The earlier start, the focused work, the discipline over distraction. That's how you break free from comfort's grip, not with one bold act, but with small, consistent choices that push you beyond what feels safe. Every time you ignore comfort in favor of growth, you take back your ambition. Every time you say no to laziness and yes to effort, you reclaim your drive. And every time you move forward despite the resistance, you strengthen the muscle that builds dreams. That's how you rise. That's how you separate yourself from the average. That's how you build a life that's not just easy, but meaningful. Because ease fades fast, but purpose lasts, and purpose is never found in the arms of comfort. It's found on the path that comfort tries to keep you from taking. Most people wait. They wait for the perfect mood, the right level of excitement, the magical moment when they suddenly feel full of energy and motivation. They sit still, hoping that inspiration will strike like lightning and lift them into action. But that moment rarely comes, and even when it does, it doesn't last. Because energy is not something you wait for. Energy is something you create, and the way you create it is by doing, by moving, by starting. Action is the engine that produces energy. Waiting does the opposite. The longer you wait, the heavier your body feels, the more fogged your mind becomes, and the deeper you sink into a state of stillness that breeds laziness and doubt. When you choose to act, even when you don't feel like it, you set something powerful in motion. You prove to your own mind that you are not controlled by moods, that you are not a slave to feelings, that you can lead your body instead of being dragged by it. And once that first action is taken, something shifts inside. It's subtle at first, a small wave of alertness, a flicker of mental clarity, a rising sense of movement. And that's how momentum begins, not with a burst of energy, but with a single step taken in defiance of laziness. One push-up, 1 minute of reading, one open laptop, one note written. That's all it takes to go from stillness to motion. And once motion begins, energy rises. People misunderstand motivation. They think it comes before the work. They think it's the spark that starts the engine. But that's not how it works. The real secret is that motivation comes after you begin, after you do the thing you didn't feel like doing. Action leads and motivation follows. You want to feel motivated to go to the gym. Go to the gym first. You want to feel motivated to work on your goals. Sit down and work. You want to feel like you have energy. Get moving. That's how the system works. You don't get the benefits of energy by thinking about it. You get it by generating it, and the generator is action. Laziness grows in the gap between knowing and doing. You know what you should do, but you delay. You know what would move you forward, but you hesitate. And that gap drains your energy. It fills your mind with guilt, with excuses, with restlessness. But the moment you act, the gap disappears. The tension dissolves. You go from stuck to moving, and movement is the birthplace of energy. Even if you start slow, even if you feel tired, even if your effort is imperfect, the act of doing clears the fog. It puts your mind in gear. It awakens your senses. It brings you back to life. And the truth is, most of your tiredness isn't physical. It's mental. It's emotional. It's the weight of unmade decisions, unfinished tasks, and avoided responsibilities. That weight feels heavy, and it tells your body to slow down. But when you push through it, when you take action in spite of it, something incredible happens. that weight begins to lift. Your mind sharpens. Your blood starts to flow. Your posture straightens. And suddenly, the thing you were dreading doesn't feel so hard. You realize that the hardest part wasn't the work. It was starting the work. And the only way to win that battle is to stop negotiating with your feelings and start leading with action. This is why discipline is so connected to energy. People think the disciplined ones are the most motivated, but in reality, they're the ones who've learned not to rely on motivation. They act regardless. And because they act, they generate energy. It becomes a loop. Action creates energy. Energy feeds more action. The momentum builds and laziness gets left behind. But it all starts with ignoring that voice in your head that says, not now, maybe later. Let's wait until we feel ready. That voice is the voice of laziness, and it lies to you. It convinces you that rest is the solution when in fact movement is what you need even on your worst days. When you feel drained, disconnected, defeated, the answer is to begin, not to rush, not to force perfection, but to move. To shake off the heaviness with effort, not delay. To reclaim control by leading with action, not emotion. The body is built to move, and the mind is built to follow. When you move your body, you signal to your brain that it's time to rise. You change your state physically, chemically, mentally. That's not motivational theory. It's biology. You want to change how you feel. Start by changing what you do. The most successful people aren't full of energy all the time. They just don't wait for it. They get up, they get to work, and the energy shows up as a result. They understand that energy is a reward for action, not a prerequisite. That's the shift that changes everything. When you stop expecting energy to magically appear and start taking action regardless, you become powerful. You take control of your days. You break the cycle of laziness. You turn motion into fuel. And that fuel keeps you going longer than any burst of motivation ever could. You have everything you need already inside you, but it's unlocked through movement, through effort, through the courage to begin even when it's uncomfortable. And the more you practice this, the stronger it becomes. The resistance gets weaker. The excuses get quieter. And your ability to generate energy on command becomes your greatest strength, not because you feel like it, but because you've trained yourself to lead with action. Every single time excuses are clever. They speak in soft tones and wear reasonable faces. They tell you you're too tired, too busy, too uncertain, or that maybe today just isn't the right day. Excuses don't shout. They whisper. They sneak into your thinking and convince you that delay is logical and quitting is understandable. And the more you listen to them, the more power they gain, until eventually your days become filled with intentions that never materialize in goals that fade into forgetfulness. The only way to destroy excuses is not by arguing with them, not by trying to silence them with motivation or inspiration, but by building a routine so solid, so automatic, so committed that excuses have no room to speak. A routine doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't care what the weather is like, whether you're in the mood, or what your emotions are saying. A real routine removes thinking from the equation. It turns discipline into default. It takes action and wraps it into structure. That's where the true strength lies, not in one-time bursts of effort, but in consistent patterns of behavior that don't rely on emotion, because emotion is unpredictable. Some days you wake up inspired, other days you wake up drained. But a routine does not fluctuate. It stays. It stands. It commands. When you wake up each day already knowing exactly what comes next, you remove the danger of hesitation. You remove the gap where excuses are born. You stop negotiating with yourself and start executing. That's what the most productive people understand. They don't waste time deciding what they're going to do every morning. They've already decided. They made the decision once and turned it into a system. Systems outperform willpower every time because willpower gets tired. But a well-built routine, one that aligns with your purpose, carries you forward even when your will is weak. You don't build a routine overnight. You build it through repetition, through simplicity, through intentional design. You start by picking the essential tasks, the things that matter most, and making them non-negotiable. You don't fit them into your day when it's convenient. You make them the foundation of your day, whether it's waking up early, working on your craft, exercising, studying, building, or planning, whatever it is that drives you toward your goals, it becomes a fixed part of your calendar. It becomes a priority, not a possibility. And when it's a priority, you don't cancel it for a distraction or delay it for a mood. You show up every single time, and the magic of showing up daily is that the process becomes easier. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. You start to build internal proof. You start to see results, and those results reinforce the behavior. You start to trust yourself more. You stop doubting whether you'll do the work and start expecting it from yourself. That expectation is powerful. When your own identity becomes tied to consistency, laziness can no longer live in your schedule because your routine doesn't allow it. There's no open door for excuses to walk through. They knock and your system answers with action. Most people live by reaction. They wait for reminders, for deadlines, for pressure. They let the world dictate when they move. But a strong routine puts you on offense. It puts you ahead of your tasks, ahead of your day, ahead of your doubts. It gives you back control. And control is the enemy of laziness. When you're in control of your time, your energy, and your actions, you don't drift. You drive. You navigate. You lead yourself where you need to go. A good routine also brings clarity. You stop wasting time figuring out what to do next. You stop filling your head with noise and start filling your life with structure. Structure doesn't limit you. It frees you. It creates space for deeper focus, stronger habits, and better results. When your life is disorganized, it's easy to fall into chaos. It's easy to make excuses because nothing feels certain. But when your life is ordered, every excuse feels like a step backward, a break in the chain, and you naturally resist it. You protect your rhythm. You respect your time. You don't need a perfect routine. You need a committed one. One that works for you. One that eliminates the need to think about every move. One that turns the important actions into rituals, morning routines, evening shutdowns, dedicated hours for deep work, built-in time for progress. You're not trying to be robotic. You're trying to be intentional, because intention kills laziness. And the stronger your routine, the less room laziness has to grow. The best part is that once your routine becomes part of who you are, you stop fighting the same battles. You stop having to convince yourself to start. You stop having to drag yourself through resistance. Action becomes the norm. Progress becomes a pattern. And your goals move from the distant future into daily practice. You become the type of person who doesn't just talk about change. You live inside it. Every day, every choice, every hour. Not because you're perfect, but because your routine refuses to let excuses win. Laziness is not a mystery. It's not a condition. And it's not something you're born with. It's a series of choices. Quiet, small, repeated decisions to remain where you are instead of rising to where you could be. It grows in comfort, hides behind excuses, and survives in the absence of structure. But every time you choose discipline over delay, action over apathy, and purpose over pleasure, you take its power away. You don't kill laziness with motivation. You kill it with decisions. You kill it with habits. You kill it with routines that don't bend to emotion. Success doesn't ask how you feel. It waits for who shows up. And the one who shows up every single day, in spite of distractions, in spite of doubt, in spite of fatigue, is the one who wins. The clock will not wait. The world will not pause, and opportunities will not knock forever. But your actions, your mindset, your structure, they decide your future. Laziness has no chance against a person who decides to lead their life instead of waiting for the perfect moment to begin.